Well, good morning. I didn't think it was going to be this big a crowd, and this is only half. Goodness. I'd like to start by saying that our welcome to Grand Cayman and Cayman International School has been nothing but warm and embracing. Our first steps onto campus were an accompaniment to a delightful steel pan band playing When the Saints Go Marching In. In any case, it was a wonderful way to see your students in action. We were delighted to see the elementary and middle school students playing with such abandon, even at such an early hour. In our opening session, we were educated about the principles that you've identified and adopted as core values by enthusiastic students, and then provided with insightful tours by the same students. Everything about our visit here has been just as good. I'd really like to start by saying with you some of the things that your students have to say about you. Our teachers really care about us. They're like your friends. We're a small school and everyone knows everyone. We're a family. Teachers tell us about kindness from a young age and how they view leadership. Leadership is a means of exercising kindness, of collaboration, empathy, relationship building, compromise and communication, failing and learning from that. Pretty amazing from young people. One word that they would use to describe CIS: community, cheerful, warm, open-minded, welcoming, grit, kindness, inclusive, and going above and beyond. The young lady said, that's actually a phrase. If a tree is known by its fruit, you have much about which to be proud. I'd like to say a few words about your foundation documents. The way that you've created what we refer to as foundation documents, formerly your mission, beliefs, and graduate profile, is far more comprehensive and integrated than we've found in many schools. Connect, inspire, serve. Words to live by and to be challenged by. But you give them context and flesh in your paradigms document that's rich and would be ill-served by my summarizing them here. Suffice it to say that we found evidence everywhere that people know the 3 C's and the 8 principles. Students and teachers and staff spoke about them with eloquence and passion. We found evidence of the embrace of the characteristics of the graduate from pre-K through grade 12 in lessons, in units, and assessments, and assemblies. You have more than words on posters, though you have those and they're everywhere. You have a culture that's widely embraced. In terms of the standards and review process, the process that you elected to engage in is a thorough and comprehensive one, made all the more so by your integration into your strategic planning process. Excellence by design requires you to review and establish the ways that you meet all 12 of the middle state standards. We were impressed with the openness and honesty we found in all stakeholders regarding that process. You secured input from everyone and engaged in critical self-examination. I'll say a few more words about some items we would ask you to consider in a few moments. You created for yourself 3 worthwhile goals that certainly tie into your hopes for continuous school improvement. As one of your administrators noted, it's not easy to identify areas of improvement, but we had to be honest and open with ourselves about how to improve. We would agree. In terms of process, you had an incredibly large pool of people on your planning team, and we were pleased to see a wide body of opinions offered on many subjects. There was a sense from all, especially students and parents, that voices were welcome in the process. When you made the strategic decision to funnel all decisions through your 8 core principles, you identified for yourselves, it appears that decision-making was greatly facilitated. Community principles of kindness, partnership, sustainability, and good intent. Learning principles of language, ownership, nature, and context. Content. Your shift to viewing all things through your definition of learning in these lenses, or is ecosystem the word? It was a bold initiative that we as your team believed is percolated into virtually every aspect of school life. Excellence by design requires that schools continually maintain adherence to the 12 standards, and we believe that there are mechanisms at place at CIS to guarantee that you'll continue to do so. However, the protocol also requires that there's a regular review of progress on the goals that you've established and reporting mechanisms in place. In conversations with your internal coordinators and planning team, It seems that you've yet to formalize the mechanism for doing so here. So that's a step we would ask you to take immediately. The schools have various names for such a group, but it can't be left to one or two people to continue. You'll need to keep records of your meeting and be able to provide documentation for your midpoint review. And then again, as you did for this visit, in preparation for the team that will come 7 years from now as you move on to the next cycle. We are confident that you already have many systems in place that will enable you to do this with relative ease. And so we simply recommend that you formalize those into a structure that will allow for monitoring by all stakeholders of your growth, of the changes you may need to make in your plans for growth. Will also allow you to find moments to share the good news with stakeholders and celebrate successes. A few key strengths. We saw an evidence of fierce dedication to student education in the fullest sense, to an embrace of each young person as an individual with unique talents and abilities waiting to be unleashed. We're encouraged by your bold vision of education as rooted in this ecosystem that's comprehensive. I won't attempt to summarize the complex embrace of the whole universe of education that you've crafted, but suffice it to say that we see significant evidence of how it's transforming the culture, the process, and the outcomes already. Planning is clearly a strength at CIS. Your integration of middle states accreditation with your strategic plan offers opportunities for synergy that are often missed. It will require careful attention to maintain focus on so many transforming elements of the school taking place simultaneously. As you move, admittedly with some fits and starts, to a comprehensive, standards-based approach to assessment, you'll doubtless face challenges from without, university expectations, parental concerns, and some from within, professional development, time and space limitations, the expanding campus and community that you're looking forward to. Your planning team was admirably shepherded by powerful leaders who were tremendously organized. The collection of data is unlike anything I've ever seen in my visits to schools. It was amazing. We're going to ask you to now create that formal group that's going to continue the work of the planning team led by the internal coordinators. You need to continue to plan for growth and share that good news. On a related matter, we found that some of the action plans could use a little bit more fleshing out as you work forward across 7 years. Since your objectives are already closely aligned with your institutionalized process for curriculum review and revision, we're confident that the necessary changes will make their way into your plans, and so we would encourage you to simply document those along the way. With reference to the 12 standards, the team is unanimously of the opinion that you meet all of them. However, we would like to offer some suggestions for further reflection. Excellence by Design invites peers to come to your school and to see what you see and to hear what you hear with new eyes and new ears. And our recommendations simply echo back some of the things that we see, and they're just that, they're recommendations. It's for the school to decide if they're appropriate for you. So there'll be more in the formal report, but I just offer a few sample ones here. We recommend that you explore an emergency evacuation drill. What about taking everybody and getting them off of campus? That's a kind of massive undertaking, and the sort of practice that goes with that would probably be a benefit. Perimeter security is a concern shared by your board, by administration, by parents, and we echo that concern and urge you to work with your landlord to find mutually acceptable remedies. Communications. Every school I go to says communications are a problem here. We heard from a parent yesterday, 2 days ago, said the weekly current is like drinking water from a fire hydrant. So it's not that you're not communicating. There's just so much stuff coming. And he said, sometimes I just don't have time to read all of the stuff that comes. So finding ways to improve, ways to focus that information. Every school has to deal with that challenge. Parents shared that they sensed that their children were happy and making progress at school. However, they expressed concern that they weren't aware of how CIS educational standards compared to internationally recognized exams and how this would affect university choices. CIS may consider articulating your standards and communicating this effectively to the parent body to address ambiguities. I'm sure you're already doing some of that, but sometimes parents don't hear it, they don't understand how to interpret that information, so finding ways to communicate that. In terms of goals, you identified 3 goals for yourself, and we know that you have many more hopes and dreams for improvement as well. We'll offer a few ideas about them in the written report, but for now we'd like to emphasize that there seems to be not enough awareness about what those goals are. We understand that they were developed by school leadership, so we would encourage you to promote awareness of what those are and how you're making progress on those. We noted that you have significant action plans in place, and we'll be offering a few simple recommendations there. Now, people always want to know how they do. The process is critical, but so is the product. And so we're pleased to share with you that we will be recommending that you are reaccredited for 7 years by the Middle States Association. Congratulations. There are some important next steps that I would just like to outline publicly. Continue to maintain adherence to the 12 standards for accreditation. Continue to implement the plan for growth and improvement. Submit an annual profile and nominations to serve on visiting teams. Conduct periodic reviews of the plan for growth and improvement. In 3.5 years, you need to complete a midterm report, and 6 years, begin to start planning for reaccreditation all over again. I want to offer our sincere thanks to everyone who's been a part of the process and your willingness to accommodate our every need. Your internal coordinators have done a phenomenal job. I've rarely seen such well-collected evidence on many visits. The hard work of the internal coordinators has resulted in a beautiful self-study and probably tons of hours that many of you are not aware of. So congratulations to Rita, Leanne, and Ben. Thanks. Thanks also to everyone in school leadership. David has been more than accessible and helpful in assisting us to know your unique context. Jeremy has been nothing less than incredible, though we all need to get home and work out for a couple of days to deal with the cuisine that we've dealt with in the last few days. You have a wonderful family here, simply amazing students who are a great reflection of your deep and meaningful commitment to their growth and maturity. I'd be remiss if I didn't say a few words about the awesome team that I had the pleasure to work with over the last few days. They really helped me with a relatively limited understanding of some of the nuances of international schools, but they're bright, insightful, and hardworking and witty. We laughed a lot in the extensive hours we spent working on trying to find ways to help your school be the best that it can be. So my sincere thanks to Nicholas and to Mark and to Katerina and to Maura. It's been a great pleasure to work with such amazing educators. So some final remarks. At the very end of your paradigms documents, I found this interesting word, appropriate in an international school, Kaizen. It's actually very interesting kanji that make up that word. And kanji always carries so much meaning. So this has 2, and the first is indicative of change or flow or even growth. The form for the second is a little more complicated. It's speech, and it's repeated 2 times in the kanji. So perhaps say much, but also could mean to quarrel, to quibble, to debate. And the base is topped with a kanji for a ram's head, which is symbolic of an offering. In its post-World War II application for industrial improvement, it's often rendered as continual improvement. But I fear imagery that relates education to factory models, and you probably would too. Kanji are notoriously multivalent, but I believe one way to think about Kaizen is continual engagement and discussion about what you are offering to students, to one another, and to the world. Your Paradigms document is all about that, as we believe you are. We wish you all the best on your journey toward continual improvement. Connect, inspire, and serve. Thank you.